Much longer is this? Dorothy woke early the next morning after a night of fitful sleep in a flinty smelling bedchamber. Sitting up in bed to look at the harsh yellow sunlight bleeding through the shielded window, she noticed that Jesse was no longer beside her, though the sheets on his side of the bed were rumpled. Detecting that she was awake, a tiny device like a fat bee a tiny device like a fat bee buzzed in front of her face, and she blew a breath to activate the messenger. Jesse's compressed voice said, I'm on an inspection tour with Esmar and Gurney. You took so long to get to sleep, Dor. I didn't want to wake you. She smiled at his consideration, but could not allow herself to rest, not on their first full day on Dune World. Thousands of details demanded her attention for the household to run smoothly. Bari was already up and bursting with energy. He had dark brown hair that remained unruly, despite Dorothy's efforts to tame it. His nose was round and covered with a thin scatter of freckles, easily disguised by the ever-present dust on Dune World. His bright laughter came easily, especially when he was amused himself, especially when he amused himself by discovering interesting facets to even ordinary things. The smart 8-year-old followed her throughout the morning, asking constant questions, poking into unlabeled boxes, exploring hallways and closed rooms. Dorothy issued instructions to the domestic staff she had brought from Catalan, as well as a handful of Hoskinair holdovers that General Tuick had screened with his usual care. Jessie might trust the old veteran's precautions, but Dorothy had quietly decided to make her own judgments about the staff. The consequences of an error in this regard were too high, the stakes too enormous. She took a stone stairway down to the main kitchen. When she entered, the chef was discussing that evening's meal with two staff members. Piero Zon had operated a gourmet restaurant on Catalan prior to joining the Lincoln entourage. Jessie had brought him along to serve meals in the headquarters mansion, but the small, energetic man seemed at a loss as to how he would do his job properly. Dorothy wanted to reassure him, but she didn't know herself how many things they would have to sacrifice here. The chef and his assistants felt silent when they saw her. She was a commoner like them, but they lived in different circles. Nearby, a Carthage native maid paused while wiping dust from a decorative stone alcove, then resumed her work with renewed vigor. Dorothy felt very much out of place. Later, as the two of them walked alone through a hall to the upper levels, Bari tugged at his mother's cool blouse. "What does a docus mean?" "A docus? The star we saw when we came into the system." "That's Arrakis, dear. In ancient astronomy, it meant the dancer, or the trotting camel. It's the sun up in our sky now, on this planet. I'd rather be back on Catalan. I miss my friends." "You'll make new friends here." In truth, though, Dorothy had noticed few children in Carthage, and the ones she had seen appeared to be street urchins. With a population of convict laborers and freedmen who could not afford passage home, Dune World was not much of a place to raise a family. With Jesse already throwing himself into the spice business, Dorothy spent the morning unpacking while Bari continued to explore. An exceedingly curious young man, he invariably pestered his mother when she was busiest or most agitated. But she found reservoirs of patience within herself, knowing that his curiosity was a sign of intelligence. In the large master suite, she organized a few Lincoln mementos, the bare minimum Jessie had permitted her to bring along, due to the weight restrictions on space cargo. The rest of their possessions had been left behind on Catalan. So much of her life remained back there, and not just things. Bari looked forlorn each time he realized that some toy or keepsake was far away, and possibly lost forever. "It's good to start anew," she said aloud with a brave smile. While she studied inventory lists, the boy occupied himself by playing with something he had found on the floor in the corner of the large suite. One of the articles she unpacked was a hollow photo of Jessie's father. Placing it on the mantel of the bedroom fireplace, she activated it to show the heavy-set Jabbo Lincoln in his gaudy Fox military uniform, the attire he had preferred to wear, though he had never served in any army. A sycophant at the imperial court, the old fool had loved to dress in fancy costumes and throw extravagant balls that he could not afford. In the process, he'd nearly bankrupted House Lincoln. During one such banquet, a crazed chef had attempted to assassinate the father of Valdemar Hoskener by slipping a powerful toxin into his dessert, a famous Catalanian layer cake. But the delicacy had been one of Jabbo's favorite treats, and he had devoured the dish, not knowing it was poisoned, and it quickly killed him. Only a year later, emboldened by the death of his enemy, sure that House Lincoln had been behind the poisoning attempt, young Valdemar had publicly challenged Jesse's brother, Hugo, to fight in a Hoskener-sponsored bullfight. Hugo let himself be shamed into participating, and the bull killed him. Sheer stupidity. Thus, the youngest Lincoln had been left in charge of the noble house. As Dorothy studied Jabbo's hollow photo, she hoped her beloved Jesse never fell victim to the prideful ways of his star-crossed family. Dr. Yue stepped through an open door. Dr. Yue stepped through the open doorway. "Oh, I'm feeling much better today, now that I've done some unpacking and started to get organized." He held up a long, wickedly sharp ceremonial knife in the form of a gilded and gem-encrusted scalpel. "I even found this old thing, from when I received my first medical credentials." He flashed a self-deprecating smile. "It probably wasn't worth the cost of shipping, even to this vain old man." "I think we can indulge you in this instance, Cullington." The old doctor rubbed his hands together briskly. "I'm about to have a late lunch. Care to join me? The nobleman hasn't returned yet, but I thought you might enjoy a break." "Yes, of course. Bari, come with us to the dining hall." She was surprised at how quiet he had become, while sitting cross-legged by a sealed window, with his back to her. "What are you doing there?" Still playing, he looked over his shoulder with a cherubic grin. His blue-green eyes sparkled with fascination. "I have a new friend after all, Mother. Look, it's like one of the tide pool crabs at home." He held up his hand to show a jagged-legged creature on his palm. The jet black arachnid crawled up his bare arm, prowling. He giggled. That tickles. Dr. Yue's jaw dropped. Oh, don't make any sudden moves. The old doctor pushed Dorothy back and moved toward the boy. It's an indigenous sand scorpion. The sting is deadly. With every muscle in her body, Dorothy wanted to leap to her son's aid, but didn't dare startle the creature. Making a sudden move, Yue slapped the scorpion from Bari's arm. The creature struck a settee near Dorothy, fell to the floor, and rolled into a black, defensive ball. She stepped on it hard, grinding with her heel. Though it was smashed and dead, she stomped on the sand scorpion again and again. That's all right, Yue said soothingly as he pulled the boy away. But Bari struggled to get free, his eyes full of tears. Drawing her son to her bosom, Dorothy said, This is a dangerous place. You must not play with the creatures you find here. Even Dr. Yue could not have saved you from a scorpion's sting. Bari glared at her for killing his new pet. Cullington could have figured out an antidote. The old doctor patted the boy on the head. Let's not test my abilities, all right? And that's the end of chapter 4.